Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. Today we're going to test out my MechMaxx B150 15 horsepower chipper. It says it does up to 6 inches, and I'm going to put it to the test today and see what's going on. I got all kinds of branches down behind me from the orchard. Behind the camera there's blowdown from the storm, big branches, little branches. We're going to compare them all. Sometimes machines that do bigger sometimes have a hard time with smaller and whatnot. I want to see how cleanly everything goes through, and let's get to it. Before we get going on any branches, I need to get the machine out of the shop. I pulled it in there with my quad. It has a tow bar on it, and it easily pulls with a small quad. It doesn't even have to be a big one, but it is a 600-pound machine. And from the shop out to here, it's a slight uphill slope. It's not paved or anything, and it's been wet the last couple days, so the ground is soft and I have to pull it, and it's a 600-pound machine. And so even though the machine moves really easily on concrete with the sets of wheels that it has, I want to see if one man can just pull it. Obviously it's not going to be efficient, but if you want to just move it around the yard a little bit or not too far, how well you can move it by hand. Main axles in the back that support all the weight. Front axles here that it rides on when it's not on the quad. It does lock right here, so we need to unlock those so my wheels can pivot, and then we can go ahead and pull this out. To begin with, this branch off my plum tree is certainly not too big to handle, but the branches sticking out the sides sometimes make it hard to get through the hopper, so I wanted to see how easily that could be done. You're going to see a number of these where that's the situation, and I'm going to challenge myself to see how wide of spread branches I can get through the hopper. You can see this major limb that was cut off has things sticking out everywhere. Will the machine be able to grab it and bend those branches back and suck that in? That's the question. I was quite happy to see the results of that. This saves a lot of work when you're trying to clear brush stack it. You can see the fork in this, two thick fork branches. And so I tried to force this in, but it's just a little bit too wide. They're not flexible enough to get in there, so I'm going to have to take that out and try it again. I do keep a chainsaw and loppers next to me. I'll talk more about that later, so you cut off one branch and shoot that in later. I'm doing another angle so you can see the discharge is. I'm trying to discharge it at the bottom of this tree to use it as a mulch. And now I've changed the discharge chute up higher just so you can see how far away can you actually shoot the chips if you have it aimed up and go in a different direction. All right, the chips that are right here when I had the chute pointed down more. So the machine's right here. We're shooting it through this tree, but I know it's a lower elevation down there, but you can look on top of the shed. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's a lot of chips all the way to the far side of the shed, which is probably 40 feet away from me right now. This next branch I was really excited to try. We have a lot of vine maple, vine alder, and even some wild filbert that grow really long branches and they spread out. And these are really hard to try to stack and burn in brush piles and whatnot. And the fact that this machine is just pulling most of those in and folding the branches in and cutting them excited me. It was gone in an instant. Now you can see here the last fork was a little bit too wide and I'm pushing it. And I talked about moving my machine earlier. Well, it's on a downhill slope the way I was pushing it, and now you can see it's much more difficult. There was a hole that it was stuck in, and I had to push it back up. So yes, I can move it, but that took a little effort. I'm going to block the tires now so it doesn't want to just roll forward. I'm taking the loppers now and cutting off the fork that just made it too wide to go in. I purposely left all of them on there because I wanted to see if I could force it through and what it would do. having gone through this, I have another branch that's forked out that's causing it to stop here, so I'll cut that off as well. But knowing what I know now, I would cut just a few branches. I don't want to make more work cutting, but I'd cut the ones that are obviously too wide or too wide of an angle that's going to hinder it getting through the hopper, and then the rest of it I'll just run through in one big piece and then add those one or two branches that I had to cut off. I'm going to do another one of these large branches that have a lot of branches sticking out the side, just to get a better feel of what I can and can't do. You can see it's quite the struggle to get this over 30-foot long branch to stand up and get in the hopper. But I'm really pleased once it gets into the machine. The machine does a good job eating it up. The branch is so long and spread out at the end that I was just it was getting caught in the trees behind us. That's why I couldn't get it in there. But this entire branch goes in there, and I don't have to use the loppers at all. Again, taking the loppers and cutting a few key branches off before I put it into the machine would save me from wrestling here at the end. But I, like I said before, I just wanted to test to see what this thing could suck in and what it wouldn't. But it's all gonna, with a couple more shoves, it's all gonna just get it pulled in and shred it easily. And here we go. Suck it on in. Now I'm coming up with an almost 5-inch fir log. I would not normally be chipping and shredding this, as I have a firewood business, and cutting this up and putting it in bundles of firewood would be quite profitable. But I'm testing the machine, seeing what I can and can't do. It doesn't just run it straight through, but it is eating it up quite effectively. After doing some of this chipping, one of the things that I was pleasantly surprised with, really happy with actually, is a lot of times in other chippers, you get some pieces that are pretty decent size round. I had some that were bigger than this, but broke off. And sometimes they sit in a chipper and they just sit there and bounce around, they don't go in. But this machine sucked them up pretty good, even on their own. And if they were in there dancing and I just put another branch in, that gave enough traction and it sucked these in, and they weren't just sitting there dancing around in the hopper. As a Christmas tree farmer, I'm excited to see, can I shove a whole Christmas tree through? Now I did try this with a Noble the other day, and it sucked up the tree pretty good, except the branches, there's so many branches on the bottom here that was really wide. I had to cut a couple branches just so it'd fold in and go. This is a Nordman fir, known for really stout boughs to hold your ornaments, so it'll be interesting to see if we can get this baby to go through. I put this on a time lapse because this turned out to be quite the wrestling match. Couldn't get it in at first, took the loppers, tried to shove it in, and you could see some chips flying out as I'm slowly getting in there, forcing it down. And this became quite the match. I couldn't push it down anymore, and I had a hard time pulling it out. I ended up having to turn the machine off and just get my foot up in there and yank it out. And then I lopped off just a couple more branches, and then I was able to run the whole thing through. I want you to see this long fir branch because I both love and hate what happened here. It sucks up the branch really well, but you can see the side branches, which I love to run the branches through that still have side branches on, trip the safety bar, the yellow safety bar that you see on the end of the hopper. And I think this is a bit of an overkill. The hopper is quite long and it gets quite narrow. I can't reach down in there. I tried to reach in there and reach the drum, and I'm a significant distance away. So the hopper shutting the machine down when the side branches hit that is frustrating. So you can see it just did it again and shut the machine off. And so I have to let it wind down and then restart the machine and get going again. Not that it's a long process. I left all of it on the video there. Start back up. It gets revved back up. Now I'm going to hold those branches up and be more careful with it. and it's going to run this large branch with many side branches through pretty easily. Okay, let's talk about our MechMaxx machine for a little bit and talk about some of the features. First of all, outside of the machine itself, you should be wearing a hat or a helmet or something. I've joked before, I've actually made a video on my channel before how a brimmed hat is almost like a helmet. And with the branches that were all spread out, you know, there's a trunk running in and the branches going out and the machine starts shaking it. I got slapped multiple times in the face, even with this on, but I can't tell you how many times I felt it hit the brim of my hat and whatnot and protect it. So just simply a brimmed hat or a helmet, because if you have long branches and ones that are branching out to the sides, they're coming after you. You do have the ability to control the chute, which direction and what angle. So there's two tension bars here that could hold this up and down, put wherever you want, and two here. The first time I did this, it's no big deal, but I turned it where it's the direction I thought I wanted it, tightened it down, and then did this and found out it wasn't the right thing. I would loosen both of these, turn it until it's like, okay, that's exactly where I want, and then tighten both sets, and you're going to have the chute discharging everything exactly where you want it. The machine is a tall machine, and if you have a 5-gallon gas can, you might want to have a stool or something to get up and fill this. I spilled a little bit of gas when I filled this up the first time. I wasn't expecting it to be that high, and I had a full can, and that was difficult. The other thing you need to know is it's so wonderful that you can open up these chutes and clear anything out if they got jammed. On my older chipper shredder, which wasn't nearly as nice as this one, I'd get jammed up quite often and there wasn't a good way to access it. The chutes being able to open and close so quickly is really positive. You do need to know, and I had a problem with this, there's a pin down here that if it's not pushed in, the machine will not run. Okay, so you need to make sure that you've got this closed down tight enough to make the machine run. And there's one over here as well. Ooh, I almost put my hand on a hot motor. Don't want to do that. And so this chute also opens up, and there's a pin right here that has to be pushed in when it's closed. And the first time I assembled my machine, I didn't have these clasps tight enough, and it didn't push that pin in. And I tried and I tried and I tried to start my machine, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I went and saw that that one wasn't pushed in, tightened down my clasp, and everything took off really good. I'm done recording for right now. It's starting to get a little bit darker. I don't know how much longer the film will do, so I'm wrapping up my video, and I'm going to continue doing some work. I rushed home after work. I was excited to try out my machine and make a video for you. Thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching and cleaning horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. Hope to see you again soon. Be blessed, everyone.